Picture a city, not ours, not modern, ancient, bathed in sunlight, smelling of olives and sea salt. Pompeii, 79 AD, people are waking up, haggling at the market, laughing, arguing, falling in love. No one knows that in a few hours, the sky will turn black. Vesuvius will erupt and bury everything under meters of scorching ash. Houses, temples, frescoes, bread still in the ovens, people still in each other's arms. Nearly 2,000 years later, archaeologists will begin excavating this perfectly preserved world. And among all the human stories, the frozen bodies and shattered amphorae, they'll find something else. Tiny bones, thin, fragile, rat bones. They lived here, right alongside everyone else, underfoot, inside the walls, long before any resident of Pompeii ever stopped to think about the neighbors no one had invited. Which brings us to the first question, the one that starts everything. How did a creature that weighs less than a can of soda manage to conquer the entire planet? Let's start with the basics. What exactly is a rat? A genus of rodents, 64 species. But when we say rat, we almost always mean one specific animal. The brown rat, the one living in your basement, running along subway tracks, rooting through trash cans. Its homeland is southern China. And that's not a guess or a legend. In 2010, geneticists published a major study tracing the DNA of brown rats around the world back to a single point on the map, southern China. That's where it all began. From there, the road, the Silk Road, Arab trading caravans of the 9th, 10th, and 11th centuries. Rats traveled with people, in grain sacks, in ships' holds, in carts. They didn't buy tickets, they just rode along. And everywhere they arrived, they pushed out the local black rat, their smaller, less aggressive cousin. You might know the brown rat by another name, the Norway rat, which is funny because it has nothing to do with Norway. The name was given by an English naturalist named Birkenhout in 1769. He simply got it wrong, and the name stuck forever. Now, the body. This is where things get unsettling. A rat's skeleton is flexible enough to squeeze through a gap 4 centimeters wide. 4, about the width of 2 fingers. If the head fits, the rest follows. The ribs compress, the body flattens. It moves like liquid, like water through a pipe. The teeth, the incisors grow throughout its entire life. And if a rat doesn't wear them down, they'll eventually grow back through its own skull. So it gnaws everything. Concrete, metal, wiring, plastic. The bite force is 0.5 ton per square centimeter, more than some dogs. The tail isn't just a tail, it's a thermostat. The rat releases excess body heat through it. It's also a balancing rod, helping the rat run across narrow pipes, ledges, and cables. All along its body are whiskers called vibrissae, highly sensitive, not just on the face, along the sides too. They pick up airflow, vibrations, the shapes of objects. A rat essentially sees the world through its skin. Its actual eyesight, though, is poor. But here's something remarkable. Rats can perceive ultraviolet light. We can't. They can. The world looks different to a rat than it does to us. It contains colors we can't even imagine. The sense of smell is extraordinary. A rat can detect scents at distances we can barely fathom. It can distinguish hundreds of subtle variations, which is exactly why, and we'll come back to this, rats have been trained to detect tuberculosis and landmines. A rat's liver regenerates up to 70% after damage. 70. The human liver regenerates well too, but in rats the process is faster and more complete. It survives a fall from a 5-story building. It's resistant to most poisons because evolution has trained its body to break down toxins faster than they can take effect. And yes, rats live in the Chernobyl exclusion zone. They've been there since 1986. In a place where radiation levels would kill a human within months, rats are building nests, breeding, and thriving. But the most remarkable thing isn't the body, it's the brain. In 2014, a scientist named John O'Keefe won the Nobel Prize in Physiology. Why? Because he discovered that a rat's brain contains specialized cells that build a map of space, a neural navigation system. A rat doesn't just run through a maze. It constructs a detailed map in its head. It memorizes turns, distances, landmarks. and updates that map in real time. Rats can establish cause and effect. Press this lever. Get food. Press that one. Get an unpleasant sound. They don't just remember. They understand. They plan. Not just run toward food, but do this first, then that, then come back here. That kind of complex behavior was once thought to be exclusive to primates. They have metacognition, meaning they know what they know. In experiments, rats refused to attempt a task when they weren't confident they knew the answer. They assessed their own certainty. Think about that for a moment. They have mirror neurons. When a rat watches another rat perform an action, the same brain regions fire in the observer. That's the neural basis of empathy. A rat can feel what another rat is feeling, and they recognize themselves in mirrors. That's a test most animals fail. The ones that pass include chimpanzees, dolphins, elephants, and rats. In 2001, researchers at MIT proved that rats dream. Not just dream, they replay the events of the day. They ran through a maze, and that night, their brains reproduced the exact same route. Precisely. They learn in their sleep, just like we do. And in 2005, the University of Barcelona showed that rats can tell human languages apart. Not individual words, whole languages. They can hear the difference between Dutch and Japanese, between the rhythms and melodies of speech. Now stop, look around. This creature, with its flexible body, teeth that can chew through concrete, and a brain equipped with maps, plans, empathy, and dreams, is living right now just a few meters away from you. Under the floor, behind the wall, in the basement, in the drains. It isn't afraid of you. It's studying you. And this is only the beginning. Have you ever watched a rat freeze in front of unfamiliar food? It doesn't eat. It just sits and stares, waits, sometimes for hours. Do you know why? Because its great-grandmother once tried something similar and died. And that information was passed down, not through genes, through culture, through behavior. The older rats teach the younger ones. Don't touch that. That's dangerous. That's what death smells like. Rats pass knowledge from generation to generation, just like us, like people. And that perhaps is the most uncomfortable thing you'll learn today. Rats aren't just animals with good memories. They are a society with their own rules, roles, punishments, and even something like a moral code. A rat colony is not chaos, it's structure. There are leaders. There are scouts who are first to check new territory. There are elders, experienced individuals the others listen to. There's even something like a nursery, collective childcare where several adults watch over each other's young. Every colony has its own unique chemical marker, a scent. If a stranger smells different, they won't be accepted. Or they will, but not right away. They have to earn trust. Inside the group, rules apply. Young rats play together, and those games have a sense of fairness. A stronger rat will deliberately let a weaker one win, just to keep the game going. If someone plays too rough, they get punished. The others refuse to play with them. They get excluded. Social pressure, just like in a schoolyard, just like in an office. And now, the most moving part. In 2011, a team of scientists at the University of Chicago, led by Peggy Mason, ran an experiment that changed everything we thought we knew about rats. They placed one rat inside a clear trap, a narrow tube it couldn't escape from on its own. Beside it, they placed a second rat, free, and next to that rat, a pile of chocolate. The free rat could have simply eaten the chocolate and walked away. No one would have blamed it. It's a rat, but it didn't walk away. It ran around the trap, pushed at it, tried to open it, again and again, sometimes for hours, until it found a way to free its companion. Here's what made it remarkable. It did this even when the chocolate was right in front of it. It chose to help another over food. Not every human would do the same. This isn't instinct. It isn't reflex. It's a choice, deliberate, emotional. The rat felt another's suffering and acted. And they laugh. No, seriously, they laugh. You just can't hear it. In the 1990s, neuroscientist Jaak Panksepp at Bowling Green University made a discovery that first drew chuckles from colleagues, and then awe. He found that when rats are tickled on their bellies, they produce ultrasonic signals at 50 kilohertz. We can't hear them. You need special equipment, but they're there. And the structure of these signals is remarkably similar to human laughter. The same brain regions, the same neurochemical reactions, the same joy. The rats would chase the researcher's hand, demanding more. They'd roll over. They were having fun. They wanted to be tickled. They loved it. Try calling them just pests after that. Now, reproduction. This is where the rat reveals why it cannot be beaten. Gestation lasts 21 days, 3 weeks, and up to 20 pups are born. 18 hours after giving birth, the female is ready to conceive again. 18 hours, not weeks, not months, hours. In theory, a single pair of rats can produce 15,000 offspring in 1 year. 15,000. That's not a typo. That's the math of unconstrained reproduction. A rat pups begin sensing the Earth's magnetic field on their 5th day of life. They are born with a built-in compass. And in 2008, McGill University demonstrated something that borders on the extraordinary. If a pregnant rat starved during her pregnancy, her grandchildren showed changes in their metabolism. Not her children, her grandchildren, across a generation. The memory of hunger was written into DNA through a special mechanism and passed forward. The grandchildren's bodies were pre-adapted to a world where food might be scarce. A rat prepares its descendants for a world they haven't been born into yet. But perhaps the most astonishing thing is this: rats can regulate their own population. In the 1960s, researcher John Calhoun ran a famous experiment at the National Institute of Mental Health called Universe 25. He created ideal conditions for mice and rats: unlimited food, water, safety, paradise. And what happened? First, a population explosion, then aggression, then apathy, then collapse. When things got too crowded, stress hormones kicked in and reproduction slowed. The population stopped itself, and now we reach the darkest chapter of this story, the one that turned the word rat into a curse in every language on Earth. The plague, a small bacterium with an almost elegant name. It lives in rat fleas. A flea bites a rat, gets infected, then bites a human, and delivers death. French physician Paul Louis Simond finally pieced together this chain in 1898 in Bombay. The first major wave was the plague of Justinian. The 6th century, 25 to 50 million dead. The historian Procopius described cities emptied within weeks, no one left to bury the dead. Then came the Black Death, 1347. It entered Europe through Kaffa, a city in Crimea, under Mongol siege. When plague broke out among the besieging army, they began catapulting the bodies of the dead over the city walls. From there, the disease boarded merchant ships and swept across Europe. A third of the population, sometimes half, 25 to 40 million people. Villages emptied entirely. Fields went unworked. There was no one to harvest, no one to pray, no one to bury the dead. And here is the strange thing. Something new was born from that horror. With so few workers left, peasants were able to demand better conditions for the first time in history. In 1381, the peasants' revolt broke out in England, a direct consequence of too many jobs and too few people to fill them. The church's authority began to crack. The old world fractured. And from that fracture, as strange as it sounds, the Renaissance grew. The third pandemic began in the Chinese province of Yunnan in 1855 and reached Hong Kong by 1894. That's when scientist Alexander Yersin finally isolated the bacterium itself, named it, and opened the door to treatment. The rat didn't want to kill millions. It was just living, eating, breeding, going about its rat business. The bacterium used it as transport. The flea used it as a bridge, and humans were the final destination. And honestly, who brought whom? The rat didn't climb onto the ship by itself. We let it on. We built the cities where it thrived. We piled up the grain it ate. We created the world it flourished in. It just accepted the invitation. So, you now know the rat is intelligent, that it laughs, that it will free a friend instead of eating chocolate, that it killed a third of Europe. Now comes the twist, because that same rat has saved more human lives than most people on this planet. This is not a metaphor. 1906, Philadelphia, the Wistar Institute. Scientists breed the first specialized laboratory rat line in history. White, albino. Calm, docile, genetically consistent. They called it the Wistar strain. And descendants of those rats still live in laboratories around the world today. From that moment on, the rat became the invisible foundation of all modern medicine. Have you ever taken an antibiotic? Thank a rat. Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin in 1928, but discovery wasn't enough. You still needed to know how much to give a person to heal them without harming them. Those dosages were worked out on rats at Oxford in 1940 and 41. Without those experiments, penicillin would have remained an interesting mold in a petri dish. The Salk polio vaccine, 1955. Rats. Insulin in the doses that keep diabetics alive every single day. Rats. The first antidepressants, imipramine, tested on rats in 1957. Rats. Every time you swallow a pill, get a vaccine, or walk out of a hospital alive, somewhere in that chain, there was a rat. Nameless, white, in a cage. It paid for your health with its life, and no one ever said thank you. But there's an even more powerful story. 1997. Belgian scientist Bart Weechens launches a program called Apopo. The idea sounds insane. Train giant African pouched rats to find landmines. Landmines, the ones that have been buried in the ground of Mozambique, Cambodia, and Angola for decades. The ones that blow off children's legs on the way to school. The ones the world looks away from because demining is expensive, slow, and deadly. But a rat is light. It doesn't weigh enough to trigger a mine. It can smell explosives with its extraordinary nose, and it works fast. By 2015, the mine detection rats had cleared more than 13,000 hectares of land in Mozambique. 13,000 hectares, land where people can now walk, build homes, grow food. Mozambique was officially declared landmine-free. A rat accomplished what no army in the world had managed to do. And that's not all. The same rats were trained to detect tuberculosis. One rat can screen 100 sputum samples in 20 minutes. 100! With accuracy above 90%. A doctor needs a full day to do the same. A machine needs expensive reagents and electricity, which simply doesn't exist in many African villages. All a rat needs is its nose and a few peanuts as a reward. Now, closer to home. Your home. According to Columbia University estimates, approximately 2 million rats live in New York City. 2 million. About as many as the entire population of some European capitals. In 2017, a study found something unexpected. The rats of Manhattan are genetically distinct from the rats of Brooklyn, and both are distinct from the rats of the Bronx. Each borough, its own population, its own DNA, its own small nation. They live in the subway, and they know the train schedule. They live in the sewers and build nests there with multiple exits. They gnaw through wiring and sometimes knock out power to entire city blocks. They have learned our world better than we know it ourselves. Now, culture, our culture, the way we think about them. In the German city of Bonn in 1883, something strange was found. Several rats, their tails knotted together in a single mass, alive. This phenomenon is called the Rat King. It sounds like a medieval nightmare, and looks like one too. That specimen is still preserved in the museum in the city of Merzburg. There's a legend. 1284. The German town of Hamelin. A man with a flute came and led all the rats out of the city. When the townspeople refused to pay him, he led away their children. The earliest written record of this story appears in the Hamelin Town Chronicle, dated 1384, 100 years after the supposed events. What actually happened there, no one knows, but the legend lives on because it contains something essential: fear. That ancient, basement-deep, visceral fear of a creature that comes in the night and cannot be stopped. In the East, the story is different. The rat is the first sign of the Chinese zodiac. The very first. It outran the ox, the tiger, and the dragon. This system dates back to the Han Dynasty more than 2,000 years ago. In Asia, the rat is a symbol of intelligence, resourcefulness, and wealth. In the West, 5 centuries of plague turned it into the embodiment of evil. Betrayal is called ratting someone out. An informer is a rat. We absorb this fear with our culture, and we still haven't been able to shake it. And finally, the most important part, the rat is a destroyer. That's true. When Polynesian sailors landed on the shores of New Zealand around 1280 AD, rats came ashore with them and wiped out most of the flightless bird species before the Europeans even arrived. The birds had never learned to fear predators on the ground. They didn't know what danger looked like. The rats simply ate their eggs. That was enough. On Macquarie Island in Antarctica, a full rat eradication program was launched in 2011. It cost $24 million and took 3 years. But when the last rat was gone, 11 species of birds returned to the island that hadn't been seen there in decades. 11 species. They had simply been waiting for it to be safe. The rat is dangerous outside its natural range. But who brought it there? It didn't climb into the canoe by itself. It didn't choose New Zealand. We did. 10,000 years. That's how long the rat has lived alongside humans. The earliest evidence, rat bones in the grain stores of Neolithic settlements in China, around 8000 BC. We hadn't invented the wheel yet, and it was already eating our food. It survived ice ages. It survived empires. It survived the nuclear tests at Bikini Atoll in 1946. While everything around was destroyed, rats on nearby islands lived on. It is not our friend, not our enemy. It is our mirror. It shows us who we are. Our cities are its cities. Our waste is its food. Our carelessness is its advantage. The rat is the most successful adapter among all mammals. Not the strongest, not the fastest, not the largest.